spoke of never having confusion last week in spiritual consciousness. So when you reach that place where you know you're a spiritual presence in a lost plane of being, the world, you'll have experiences of unimaginable, incomprehensible beauty, a sense of beauty and dignity and in awe of the universe, like a star-studded night. And you'll be aware of it always. Though it's incomprehensible, you'll always comprehend it. You'll always know what it is. You're always there. This presence we call God, the infinite basic nature of our being, becomes us. We become as God is. So there's no confusion. You'll feel enormous presence, like I say, incomprehensible. And even though you're here, and your case, the part of you that's in the world will be, you won't have confusion, but you can't tell anyone that because you're so gentle. You treat everyone like kittens in your consciousness. You can be tough, clear, adamant about something, but inside you know when to never step on anyone's toes, as it were. So the people that are those few friends that we all have that are illuminated, that are enlightened, that are aware, that are highly conscious, you won't really know who they are, and they'll never put their stuff on our doorstep. That's what a spiritual person is, that you're never going to attach your pain to anyone else. You're going to grin and bear it. But there's really nothing to bear because you're living in that incomprehensible grandness of experience. It's called God, illumination, enlightenment, nirvana. It's a state of grace. It's the state of you. It's the state that you always are. You can't explain it to people. You spend your time alone whenever you can, and there's nothing wrong. And sometimes you're spending time alone, not just in reverie, you're working. And though it's a cosmos, I tried to explain to a friend the other day, a couple little text thing, which I avoid always. I lived back in 1952, I guess. But that's okay for me because you're in this place where you're figuring everything out, where you understand everything. And though this experience is infinite, and I was trying to explain to someone that it's still completely human. You are not out of touch with your mom, your friend, your love life. You're aware always of all of this. And though it's incredibly oceanic, like I've been in like 100-foot seas. I've been on ship like 14 months in the North Atlantic, and it's just such an enormous thing. And it's like that in spiritual consciousness, but it's all golden ecstasy is a word. You can't explain this kind of happiness. But in and of it, being a person in the world, it's very, 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 very human. You see all those Buddhists depicting paintings and tankas, and that's what I was trying to explain to someone. It's when you're in that awareness, it's very human. It's not without love or kindness or romance or a depth of bearing that's so grounded that you feel forever in this moment. All of these things coexist, and it's all very human. My friend's mother and father, they're here, they're now, they're forever. It's an infinitesimal part of us that's incarnate in the world. My buddy's daughter's in the hospital, and now that she's better, I didn't want to even talk to him because I felt she would be okay, but in the long run, because I'm in touch with her, the infinite part of her. And he's certainly a completely spiritual presence, but I didn't want to hurt by saying that she's going to be okay in the long run while both of them are grieving. She's in pain and he's grieving. And Now that that's left a little bit, I can use that as an example because he's a best friend. And so you live in a place where there are no questions. There is no doubt, no wonder. But you're in pain for those you truly love and care for because they're nearing that place in their life where all will be well. Think of my friend Corinne Hodge. She was a ballerina, just the most beautiful little thing that ever lived, and met her somewhere, and I knew there was something wrong, and I invited her to my place in the woods. She was in Palo Alto and came out. And she's a teacher. She's an illumined being. And she passed not long after this and becomes one of my teachers. And I know when she asked some things, and I knew that it would take a while for her to come to this place because she was so talented, so enormous in her capacity and ability, and far beyond anyone I've ever known athletically. I was going to teach her, she's at my place in the woods, some basic karate for self-defense, and as soon as I started, I realized her form was better than any master martial artist I'd ever known. So those people we meet in our life, they become our teachers. My present teacher, Peter Mink, is illumined and yet has to work in the field of jiu-jitsu. He's a teacher. But he has the same experience that Corinne had, or my teacher Kathleen had. And when you're coming to this final stage in your life, they call it the dark night of the soul. And this would be all the spiritual people in the world now will be taken through that. I say taken through that. This is such a small thought compared to the warmth, the integrity, the quiet, the calm, the purity, the beauty of your atmosphere. You don't think you're your body or your problems or the solution to your problems. You're made of light and air and kindness. And I say kindness is not, this is not like street talk, oh, be kind to this person. It's a purity of expression of God through you that is you. You can't, these words are insufficient, words like infinity, or it's just, doesn't touch the purity and the wonder and the sweetness and the kindness. And if all of a sudden you have these oceanic experiences of infinity beyond infinity at the throne of grace, the throne of God in heaven, there is such a place. You're still completely aware, even though you're experiencing unending community of the divine palace of God. It's just, there are no words, but you'll never be confused. You'll never be apart from a helping hand of the divine. You never have been. No one's ever died. No one could die. The most infinitesimal part of our beingness is incarnate, as it were. And that's okay. Because we're rooted and grounded in heaven. So as soon as you catch on to the thread of what I'm attempting to express, it's like, oh, it's all going to be okay. And it's an experience. It's something wonderful and beautiful and kind and very human to be illumined. It's not some distant mystical, it's you will be, or you are the one that is illumined. And then you'll discover the person of God passing through you, that is who you are. It's interesting, isn't it? More than that, it's true. It's you. You're the presence of God. This is like one neuron in God's brain, the whole world, everything we're experiencing. But God did not create the world, and that's the part of it we have to understand, that I think in the scripture it says, in God is no darkness at all. The point is that there's an infinite universe that all of us who are spiritual, my friend Corinne, Kathleen, my teacher, all of us are aware of something, a wonder, a grandness, a decency and a purity. And it's It doesn't have to be offset by the problems of this world if we take that step, that jump in awareness to say that we don't have to take it anymore. We're not here just to be conscious of your spiritual presence is the entirety of our life. Everything is then answered. Things get taken care of. This thing called faith, spiritual faith, faith in God. Things will always be handled. And you'll always be in touch with those, like if I want to handle or help someone in my family or this or some child, I can't be there physically, I can be there. Now, I am there now. I live in a place beyond all of this. From before birth, through time, and the present. I have no problems, no difficulties. And everything you've gone through, I have gone through, I have been Wonka, there's no experience I haven't experienced on all sides of the issues. God's actually put me on different sides of many issues just to look at things, to understand, to comprehend and to know, and to have no doubt. And I remember Richard DiMartino wrote a book about Zen and psychology, and I remember visiting him once in Philadelphia, and the point is, there is no psychology. You're aware always, your consciousness is aware of all the people, my teacher, my Master G here, Greg Escalto, who does these videos every week, my buddy. There's a place. All of martial arts, my interest in it was for dignity, for humanity, for empowerment. These things we do are called empowerment sessions. In Tibet they called it the transmission of this Buddhist atmosphere. You give it. And that's what my buddy, my teacher does, and he gives something beyond thought through showing you that there's nothing to be afraid of. It's the most heroic being I've ever known in so many levels, and that's what it's all about. As a Marine, as a fighter, as a martial arts student, beginning student, it's you're taught by the great teachers to be like Bodhidharma. It's just to be. He was the beginning, his thought process. Remember the Shaolin monks and all. He started that back in the 5th century. In China, he brought Buddhism from India to China, and then he started the Shaolin temples, or he became the master teacher, and that's where Chan Buddhism came into being, Zen Buddhism. And the whole idea of it is, if you're going to be a samurai, if you're going to be a fighter, you have to, at the same time, learn flower arranging, painting, along with swordsmanship. In other words, your inner being has to be so clear, because what you're going to do in the end with your sword is to protect what's behind you, which is civilization. And you can't be a brute and protect something precious. You can do that, but you can see the failure in that thought. So the tougher, the stronger you get in every regard, whether it's a business person like my friend Jessica, who can run large projects, it's someone. The more human you are, the more successful you are. And the more successful you are, the more human you are. I have a lot of buddies who are CEO types and so forth, or are CEOs, and they all become more human and more poised and more elegant in their atmosphere. And although many times it's not spiritual in its foundation, but an equal number of times it is. You learn a little grace, a little dignity when you don't have to fight all the time for everything. So martial arts, I wrote a book called The Field one time. It's showing you're building. It's as in any other art form. You're building your humanity, your spirituality, your clarity, your peace. What good does it do what does it profit one to think yourself something when you are nothing? In other words, so the more you learn to handle your issues in life, the more quiet and calm you'll be about them. You're less reactive. And when you reach this place that Bodhidharma talked about, just an absolute quiet, he would sit, let his breathing fall to his abdomen, experience with your mind, you move, let your mind follow the breath down, and you feel your abdomen expanding and releasing. And just taking your thought process out of here, you'll instantly feel quiet and calm. You see, the cerebral cortex, as I said, is the devil. You're being aware of all the things that there's nothing to be conscious of. My buddy Peter Mink, the jiu-jitsu teacher, he's the only person in the world, he can be right behind me and I don't know he's there. So and he's known for his prowess as a martial artist. But the point being, if you're quiet and calm inside, if you have become a work of art in a spiritual sense, then you'll see him the only God. You'll be the only God. You understand? God looks out through us all the time. And getting back to that one point of this talk is the fact that of the endless expanse of infinity, there's this one infinitesimal, not a particle of dust that the whole world and the whole physical world seems to be. It's as nothing. It really isn't here. But of course it had to at some point. I'm saying this out of my own, this isn't from a book. Endless realms, and they're all spiritual, and there's no, you're not confounded by or confused by anything. It's all clear to you and wondrous, and endless realms of beingness that you appreciate and become, and only this stupid world system doesn't exist, but it's nothingness. It's not even a little tiny splinter on your finger. It's infinitely less than that. And though you'll feel all the different realms of spirituality, this is the only place. So it's so easy to let it go, let it go. You don't need anything, you don't want anything. There are no enemies, there are no friends. There's just this openness. You are as God is. God is a person. What you are as a person emotionally will be who you are as God. It just settles down so quietly, like an afterthought in the morning breeze. It's just, There never was anything but the quiet in your heart right now. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for listening.